Okay, so a very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Vinay Kumar, and I've had the privilege of being associated with PRIF for almost 4 years now. And I have to say anything but I've been deeply impressed by the extraordinary work that it does in transforming the rural landscape in India, particularly the bottom of the pyramid populations, the marginalized and the poor communities. I can easily say in 40 years of my work with the development sector, both in India and overseas, I have not seen an organization like TRI, which is so holistically and committed to rural development anywhere in the world. It is holistic, it is with a lot of intensity and a lot of passion. And that is why I'm standing here with a lot of pride to announce the launch of another very exciting project and an initiative that is the 2-year fellowship program in public policy and action. This program will start with an initial cohort of about 30 fellows and will build, and as actually this program has been built on the experiences and learnings that PRIF has had in running a similar program across several states in particularly in aspirational districts. And this has been found to be extremely effective and successful, not only by independent Indian agencies, by several international agencies. So this program is going to retain some of the features of the earlier program, but will also incorporate what we have found to be very essential and necessary in bringing about the desired change in the district administration, with whom these fellows are going to partner with. So to learn more about this program, and it's an exciting program, as I see this program, I think it is one of its kind anywhere in the world. I have looked at programs in public policy across the globe, and I've been associated with some of them, and I can tell you this is one of the most unique programs. And let us hear from two of my very distinguished colleagues what is this program so unique about and what it offers. So I'd like to invite Dharmendra, who is, most of you know Dharmendra, he is a well-known development professional. He likes to call himself, he has a passion for instructional design, but I have always looked at him as a person, as a data scientist. So, and he is also a founder and chief knowledge officer at Sambodhi Communications Private Limited. And Gauri Rajgopal, she is the one who has anchored this program for the last 4 years in different states in the country, and she brings a lot of insight into the program, and I'm sure we will hear what this program is all about from them. So, are you guys ready? Okay, so tell me, what is it that this program is all about? And why are we calling it?
So I'll just start quickly with a brief context. So in 2018, TRI we started the Aspirational District Fellowship as a response and in an attempt to support the Ministry of Home Affairs in the transformation of Aspirational District program. We started with around 70 fellows in 35 left-wing extremism affected districts. And the program has been very successful. So essentially what that program had was we placed 2 very young people to work with the district collector and work on implementation of the program. Now the fellowship as a mechanism to place young people has been very successful, as like you mentioned. A lot of their work has been covered in both nationally and internationally. And we are still continuing the fellowship offering. Currently, we have around 100 odd fellows who are working mostly in Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and also with the Bodoland territorial region. So what we realized, and like you said, it's been there for 4 years, and what we realized is a fellowship was a great mechanism to essentially place the right people at the right time, in the right place, right? But for them, and it has been impactful, and especially in the given the constraints and resource constraints in these places. However, to actually, when we are talking about bringing change at a transformative scale, we realize that we also need to equip these people with the right kind of knowledge, skill set, and attitude. Especially now, consider if you're working with the district collector, you have to be at the caliber of the district collector, who's gone through Lavasana and 3 years of IAS training. So the thought of the program came from, and this particular program came from that idea, like how can we equip people who are placed at the district to match up to the skill sets, knowledge, and attitude that the district collector has. And that's where we have started this Praxis residency program, because the program is essentially, it is bringing academic rigor to the fellowship mechanism.
You want to add something to this?
Okay, so I think the way I see it, it's a metamorphosis of the earlier 3-year residential fellowship program that we had. But there's a method to the madness. That's why it has been done. Offers as well. Some of the parts that Gauri talked about. I think, as I started saying, that there are two fellowships there. So there are two nature of programs. One is academically with a bit of practical. Second are totally practice based with a very little or no amount of academic. Now this is what we are trying to do over here. We're trying to add academic rigor to the practical. That's what I think it is. So a right kind of practice. Because again, the whole idea is that people, if they are placing at one place with a purpose, which is largely the PIF landscape of things, is about augmenting state capacity. That's the larger purpose. And in the previous sessions, the needs of capital, developing state capacities, and all the other sports. So I won't get into that. But he's bringing that wherewithal to actually be meaningful and affect change in that transformation or exponential change. I think that's where the difference is coming from. And that's with that the components of the program, when you look at the brochures there now, is about one, giving the right set of competencies. Okay, so it is about policy design, policy communication, program delivery, or using of evidence, those kind of skill sets. That's what one is required. So you have a right set of competencies. Two, which essentially makes it very different, is about having that leadership component, which is concurrent throughout this program. And I'm not talking about the leadership in the management sense of the word, but I'm talking about leadership in the adaptive sense of the word. It's more about exercising leadership than the leadership kind of a thing, which is the most important part of it. And the third major component of this leadership, which I perceive, is the investment in developing an important perspective. The perspectives of state, what is the history of state, what is the space-time where we are located, what the history of development, or what is the state of development of the society versus समाज को हम किस तरीके से ये समाज बनाया और आगे से परिस्थिति में आप किस तरीके से पहुंचे उस समाज की जो कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी है तो विकास की समाज की दोनों की कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज को समझते हुए अगर हम इसको करें तो ये तीन कंपोनेंट मुझे लगता है कि ये एक इस प्रोग्राम को जिस उद्देश्य के लिए बनाया गया है कि हम सही लोगों को सही जगह पर सही कॉम्पिटेंसीज और पर्सपेक्टिव्स के साथ में ये मुझे लगता है कि ये प्रोग्राम से कोशिश की जाए. As I said, it's a building on.
No, I think that's very good, and I think when you speak in Hindi, I think it comes out much more authentic.
English is my fourth language.
No, but in the morning session, we heard Vijay Mahajan speak about the need for building social capital, right? And I couldn't agree more. But the challenge really is how to do it. The education system that we have, the more people are getting educated, there is more focus on individual. And while individual, capital is getting developed. So one thing I see in the program, and when I looked at the curriculum, was that you have emphasized a lot on adaptive leadership and how relevant it is to the context in which these fellows will be located and they'll be interacting with the district administration. So where do you see the role of adaptive leadership in this, and also how do you think it might contribute to building that social capital as well?
So,
Anyone can answer.
tough questions. Yeah. I would say tough questions, but I think I would prefer to quotes from Sinhaji first, that until the last mile is thoroughly understood or thought through. I think that's a very good starting point on that. And what Vijay referred to as that social capital अपन को समझ में नहीं आ रहा है क्या करना है. So in that context, in both the things, I think the component that we talk about, the sensitivities, that can we look at people as people when we talk about public policy, but not as subject of policy design or administration. That is, I think, सबसे पहली बात. और दूसरी जो बात इसके साथ में adaptive leadership जहाँ पर आती है, तो to use the much trite word VUCA, it's like volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and everything. So in that sense, the principle of leadership, I think the way I look at it, I understand it. Using the definition of Hypens, enabling people for new learning and capacities to address adaptive challenges in a complex world. I think that's what makes this something which is different and an attempt to influence change in a complex setting. So principles of adaptive leadership के हैं कि understanding self, understanding system, creating a holding environment, holding people through change, reflective thinking, and most of all, which I like the most, is about the social mind, the beginner's mind. Having no prejudices, no bias, continuously learning. I think that's what makes it unique, and at least better place to appreciate what is over there and try to change the system from within. I think that's what makes it more, I would say, a best place for these fellows to exercise leadership in a real-time setting, trying to add value or work alongside those people who are supposed to affect change and contribute. That would be my answer.
Yeah, sure. I know we've been told to find out, but let me just say that I think this is absolutely wonderful, because adaptive leadership emphasizes so much on self-reflection and humility, and working with. So I think that should help build some kind of social capital. Okay, since the time is less, can you give us some sense of the timeline? When is it going to be? When are people going to be recruited? When it's going to start and so on?
So we are hoping to start as soon as possible, like everything in DRI, and
Has to be done on yesterday's basis.
it had to be done yesterday. So we are actually backtracking. But we are hoping to. The admissions are open as of now today, and we are hoping to start the first cohort by October of this year.
Thank you very much. I think we hope that this is going to be a transformational effort, as a lot of things at TRIF, and we are looking forward to after this initial cohort to develop it into a major, kind of movement, and to not just transform rural India, but also to nudge and help the district administration to become more empathic and with more empathy and humility. Thank you very much.
Well said. Round of applause, everyone. Thank you so much, Vinay sir and the PPI team for this powerful launch. We'll now move on to our next session. The next session is Business in Rural. And for this session, I'd like to first convey apologies from Mr. Kunal Behel, founder of Snapdeal, and Mr. Pradeep Dada, founder of endowments, who have sent in their regrets this morning. So we have Mr. Vijay Shekhar Sharma, Mr. Taranveer Singh, and Mr. Kishore Jha joining us virtually for this session, as you all can see here. And Mr. Vijay, I wouldn't take much time with their introductions because all of you know them very well. Mr. Vijay has been the fintech disruptor through his consumer brand Paytm, and Mr. Taranveer has the founder of Farms, which is India's Amazon for farmers. Do look at their website. Mr. Kishore has made a rural dream possible of having brains enabled to be as assets and currencies. And we are also going to have Mr. Vineet Rai, who is the impact investment disruptor in our country. And for this powerful high-octane panel, we are having Mr. Arindam Datta, who is going to be moderating the session. And he has led Rabobank for many years. And Rabobank is the banker to Global Rural. And if one has to do anything with agriculture and allied, Arindam is the go-to mentor. And as they say at Rabo, together we can achieve more than we could do individually. Is the spirit of TRI as well. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Vineet Rai and Mr. Arindam to the panel, and I'm welcoming everyone joining us virtually. Mr. Vijay, Mr. Taranveer, and Mr. Kishore. Thank you so much, and we'll now begin with the session.
Thank you. Thank you to TRI. It was a simply mind-boggling inaugural session. There's very little to add, frankly, after this session. But then we have great panelists here from that very inspiring, high-level discussion we had. We get down into the brass tack of seeing how individual businesses are impacting rural India. Now, I think it was Vineet who talked about information asymmetry, the use of technology, and the ability to have information which is dynamic, which is verifiable, and on the basis of which one can take decisions. That was lacking about 20 years back. We depend on information which was inaccurate, and we had to make businesses work in the rural, semi-rural areas, and there was a lot of time lag between the flow of information and the quality of information. But thanks to modern technology, which has evolved so much in the last 10 to 15 years, it's possible now to set up businesses and reach services and products to a larger population out there in the rural hinterland. And secondly, not only have them as the customers, but also participants in businesses by enabling them to reach out to the larger national, regional, and global markets. Now, with that, I would like to welcome all the panelists. All of you are very well known. And my first question, as was introduced, you have disrupted the market. But when you initially thought about setting up your business, how much was rural India in your mind? That's the first question. And second question is, how did you see rural India evolve so far as your business growth is concerned vis-a-vis that of urban India?
First of all, thank you so much, sir, for having me here, and thank you, TRS, for inviting me. I definitely would have loved to be in person and seen my friend Vineet also sitting next to you, sir. So, when you ask me that, how did I think of rural or not, I'm actually a rural kid. I studied in a school which was in a rural area. I was in a my education is from a town where the biggest institution or physical buildings belong to school. So जहाँ पे जब बारात आती थी तो स्कूल में लड़ाई गद्दे लगाए जाते थे, वैसी वाली कहानी से है. So I come from that where I thought that the best contribution my business and my work can do is to give back and change something back there. So the mission that I set up for our company, which is I'm very happy that every one of us not just believes but lives by, is actually building for the last person in the food chain of financial system. The person who is not just underserved but is also not able to understand what would that person need. So whether it is banking, payment, credit, or various other services that you can talk about, financial services. And my fundamental belief is that it is extremely capitalist, not a socialist statement, that the economy of this country will grow when the last mile in this country has access to financial services, which probably the first mile has access to. I'm sure we all know that if you are rich, you have access to exotic financial products, future forward swap, you know what I'm trying to say, OCD, BCD, ADD, I mean, you come from banks, so you know what I'm trying to say here. And when you are the last person in the food chain of financial services, आपका बैंक अकाउंट भी खाता है, क्योंकि उसको खाता बोलते हैं. सोचिए कि वहां पे जहाँ पे बैंक अकाउंट भी खाता है से लेके जहाँ पे के पैसे की कमी नहीं होती, ये जो वाइड है, मेरा ये मानना है कि अगर हमें अपने देश को एक बड़ी 5 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी बनाना है, बड़ी कैपिटलिस्ट स्टेटमेंट है, तब हमें वहां से सॉल्व करना होगा. Obviously, the big can become bigger. So, sir, when I started, I clearly said that if we can serve these 50 crore Indians, and they can be rural, urban, and they can be underserved or not served, I don't bother and care, but I have to make sure that access, and that is where the access through the mobile phone came about. So, core philosophy, let's solve it for this 50 crore Indians scale. When you talk about how the experience been, I'm more than amazed, as expectedly. We underestimate. I come from that area, once again I'm saying it. Sitting in the city in glass house, literally it is a glass house right now. we underestimate the desire and commitment to growth and change in a person who does not have access to anything or less than nothing. The desire, हम भी आपने देखा होगा जब भी कभी कोई हॉस्पिटल में होता है तो डॉक्टर भी होता है कि इसकी ना विल पावर इस पेशेंट की डिसाइड करेगी. हम तो इनको इंजेक्शन दे चुके हैं, हम तो इनका इलाज कर चुके हैं. तो जो विल पावर होती है, उसी के कारण एक पेशेंट अपनी लाइफ रिकवर करता है, रिवाइव करता है, मूव अप करता है, मूव फॉरवर्ड करता है. तो मैं ये बोलना चाहता हूँ कि जो विल पावर एक व्यक्ति जो कि एक अंडरसर्व्ड एरिया से आता है, चाहे एक गांव से आता है, चाहे उसके पास नॉलेज ना हो, लेकिन उसके अंदर जो डिजायर कीननेस होती है अपनी लाइफ को बेटर करने की, वो हम सब अंडर एस्टिमेट कर सकते हैं. मैं तो अल्टीमेट एग्जांपल हूँ इस बात का कि हम लोगों ने, जैसा आपने देखा होगा कि हमने पेमेंट ऑन किया, QR कोड पेमेंट, जो कि एक पेपर स्टिकर पे था, और दुकानदार बहुत सारे छोटे दुकान वाले लोग होते हैं जिनको कि ऐप के अंदर की कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी समझ नहीं आई. पहले तो हमने सिंप्लीफाई करा है, परंतु उसके बावजूद हमें समझ में नहीं आया. तो उन लोगों के लिए एक ऐसा प्रोडक्ट बनाना जिसमें कि आपने साउंड बॉक्स अगर हमारा देखा हो, जिसमें पेटीएम साउंड बॉक्स, जिसमें कि आप पेमेंट करो तो वॉइस में नोटिफिकेशन आता है. इसमें हमने जो प्रोडक्ट में इनोवेशन करी थी वो लैंग्वेज, नॉट रिक्वायरिंग ऐप, नॉट रिक्वायरिंग स्मार्टफोन, नॉट रिक्वायरिंग इंटरनेट कनेक्शन, मतलब जितनी चीजें अनकंफर्टेबल होती हैं वो सबको स्ट्राइक आउट करते करते जो बचा उससे बनाया. अब मैं यहाँ पे कुछ बताना चाहता हूँ कि जब मैंने बनाया तो मेरी सेल्स की टीम दिल्ली के अंदर जो बैठी हुई है, उसने बोल दिया कि बिकेगा, क्योंकि कस्टमर को इसके 100 रुपए महीने के देता. और मैं उनको परस्यू करता रहा कि आप जाके दिखाइए तो सही, शायद हो सकता है कि. और आज आप देखते हो जब हमारी टीम के अंदर बिलीफ आया धीरे धीरे करके, तो आज वो चाय की दुकान हो, चाहे वो सब्जी की दुकान हो, चाहे वो एक रूरल क्षेत्र में हो, चाहे एक अर्बन क्षेत्र में हो, व्यक्ति जो अपनी जिंदगी को बेहतर करना चाहता है वो कमिट करता है. तो मेरी तरफ से मैं यही राय बोलूंगा कि उस बिजनेस में जिसमें बिजनेस मॉडल की एक्नॉलेजमेंट है कि एग्जिस्ट नहीं कर सकती, हम उस बिजनेस में हजारों करोड़ का रेवेन्यू प्रॉफिट कमा सकते हैं और ये कह सकते हैं कि ये मिथ है कि आप सस्टेनेबल, ग्रोइंग, कमर्शियली वाइबल बिजनेस रूरल एरिया में नहीं बना सकते. मैं तो ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि आपको वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन का मैथ आना चाहिए. उनको कितनी वैल्यू चाहिए आप अंडर एस्टिमेट कर सकते हैं, और उनके अंदर जो क्षमता है कार्य करने की, काम करने की, उनके अंदर जो एबिलिटी, इंटेंट, कमिटमेंट है, वो उस प्रिविलेज से ज्यादा है क्योंकि वो प्रिविलेज के पास तो सब कुछ है, तो इसलिए उसके अंदर विलिंगनेस भी कम है। मैं कहूँगा कि ambition to become better and cross the chasm of this poverty and the purpose of becoming better life is way bigger than, let's say, of a person who has it all. So मेरे लिए तो rural और जो व्यक्ति underserved है वो मेरा भगवान है, और मेरी नज़र में तो एक सेवा करने का मौका मिलता है commercial organization की तरह से. So being privileged.
Thank you, Vijay. Sort of one small anecdote. मैं बहुत underserved नहीं हूँ, but I was one of the last to use your services. मैंने COVID time पे भी use नहीं किया. 6 महीने पहले, when the world around me was not carrying cash, nobody in my family or friend circle, I always used to carry cash. But the first time I discovered the ease of payments, उसके बाद cash disappeared. So I took more time to adapt than all your customers possibly in the rural areas. So, Kishore, I'll move to you. So, Kishore, wonderful to have you on the panel. Kishore, we heard a little bit, Vinny did speak about his first interaction with you in Samastipur, and he saw wheat everywhere, but there were problems, they didn't have money. तो आपको ये सोच कि समस्तीपुर बिहार में to be able to come out with an idea of a bank which doesn't deal in monetary assets, वो idea कहाँ से आया? Where did you get the motivation to set up a business in Samastipur, to work with smallholder farmers and to work to increase income and prosperity in rural agriculture? आपका voice नहीं आ रहा है, but he's not on mute. I think Kishore, just hang on. I think there's a tech issue here. Anybody from the tech team?
किशोर को हेल्प कर सकता हूँ रिमोटली. किशोर, आप जो म्यूट, आपके जो बॉटम बार है जूम की, उसमें म्यूट के साइड में एक अपर एरो लगा हुआ है, उसको क्लिक करिए और उसमें लाइक माइक्रोफोन 2-3 चॉइस मिल रही हैं. Whatever right now is chosen is not working at the input output device. उसकी जगह दूसरा input output device यूज करो. इसी दिन कॉलेज के छात्रों की पहचान. आप अनम्यूट कर लो. No, you cannot. So म्यूट के साइड में जो अप एरो है, क्लिक ऑन दैट पर एंड सेलेक्ट माइक्रोफोन में 2-3 चॉइस आ रही है. सेम है सिस्टम, एक लिखा हुआ रहा होगा. नाउ तो आपका सिस्टम माइक्रोफोन भी खराब हो सकता है. यू कुड लॉग इन फ्रॉम फोन.
Okay, Kishore, I'll get back to you. Meanwhile, I'll move to Vinit. Vinit, we heard about how mediocre you were. I don't know whether it's good news or bad news for our country, because had you been very bright, you may have raised capital for urban India. But since you were mediocre, you were the pioneer to even think of mobilizing capital the way it's organized in the urban area, to getting capital for rural area. तो आपके ये mediocre दिमाग में, what did you think? What did you think, and what was the trigger to be able to do this? And we wish that the world had more mediocre.
Thank you. I normally enjoy the compliments. So mediocrity का advantage होता है कि आपके पास choices कम होती हैं. So एक विजय है जो कि brightness का exception है. मैं mediocrity का एकदम epitome हूँ. So I think the advantage of being mediocre is you act first, think later. वो मेरी family का भी थोड़ा trait है. So I was with the government after the forest, and हम लोग I set up probably India's first incubator. और उस incubation के अंदर जब कर रहा था incubation कर रहे थे तो agri innovation पे ज़्यादा काम कर रहे थे. And I realized कि पैसा जो है बहुत जरूरी ingredient है, but सरकार जैसे कि होती है वो बोलती थी कि हवा में से value create करो. थोड़ा बहुत हम लोगों ने कर भी लिया, and that actually becomes a problem because then government से अरे तुमने कर लिया तो क्या जरूरत है. I was reasonably convinced that despite everything that you are doing, money and talent is actually flows in an opposite direction. So, पैसा जो है गांव से शहर और शहर से मेट्रो में जाता है, टैलेंट का मूवमेंट गांव से शहर, शहर से मेट्रोपॉलिटन, बेसिकली विदेश में होता है. So to me it was, to my very average mind, seemed like कि मेरे को गंगा उल्टी होना है, पहाड़ के ऊपर जाना है, and government was the right, and I was in the government Gujarat जो काफी पैसे वाली government है. So it looked like they are the right people to provide with the capital, but once they said कि पैसा तो नहीं होगा, बस जो काम कर रहे हो वही करते रहो, so I quit in the half. As I said, हमारे यहाँ पहले action लेते हैं, बाद में सोचते हैं. And then I realized my life saving was 5,000 rupees. But I was reasonably convinced, and I was stupid enough to be so convinced. And this is 2001, so of course my wife, who is also from the same institute but not mediocre by any stretch of imagination, she was the first to react to them. सोचते हो before you resign and all. But the next 5 years were very torturous. The good part was there was no opportunity. So मैं छोड़ के कुछ और करना भी चाहता तो कोई हायर नहीं करता मुझे. So I continued on, and that is how. So the idea actually came largely from the work that I was doing. As I said, I met my mentor as well, and he was the first person I said कि सर पैसे की कमी है, आप microfinance करके थोड़ा बड़ा कर सकते हो. Can you give a larger amount of money? And he said तुम कर सकते हो. मैंने कहा मैं तो कर सकता हूँ. मेरे पास ये idea है. So again, you should never have a great mentor. Had he not encouraged me, शायद मैं कूदता भी नहीं. तो वो तो इतना बोलते हैं हाँ करो करो कूदो मैं तुम्हारे पीछे कूद गया. So that's basically. So I had a mentor who was too encouraging, and I was stupid enough to do things. Invariably, my learning is, therefore, if you are not naive, you can't change the world. You have to be stupid and naive if you really want to change the world. Very logical and very intelligent people normally know too much about the future. So if you ask me today, Vineet, if I give you an opportunity to start Avishkar again, would you do it? I can bet I will never do it. I just know too much now.
Thanks, Vineet. Again, I remember speaking to you sometime in 2005, 6, or even before that, I don't remember, but he was with two very bright guys. Huh? So I just asked him, why did these guys join you and where are they from? Because he was doing something which very few people understood at that point of time. He said, I had 1 or 2 guys and ICICI Bank poached them, so I poached some of the brightest guys. Do you remember that?
Yeah, no. So ICICI Bank was left, right and center hiring people. They poached 2 of mine. So I said, I'll now poach the best and brightest from ICICI. And I basically picked up people and told them that, listen, you are working like a clerk in a large institution. Worth this. I will offer you salary that is higher than ICICI Bank, but only in percentage terms. So your salary divided by ICICI Bank net worth, you pick up anything, and उसका जो percentage निकलेगा मेरा turnover और मेरा उसका percentage में offer करूँगा. Which turned out in my organization 20,000 rupees, which was a very very large salary cut. But those guys were willing to take it. But in percentage term, I was offering them much more than what I said. So it worked.
Do we still have the online panelists or have we lost them?
Yeah.
Taranveer is there.
Yeah, they are all there.
Yeah.
So Taranveer, my question to you first, tell us a little bit about your story of what you do and what inspired you to work in the agriculture sector and what convinces you that there's a business case out there of transforming rural agri and what's the role that technology is playing and enabling you to do?
I come from a rural background with 3 generations of farming, and my entire childhood I've spent in, milking cows, harvesting fodder for them, cutting them into small pieces and then feeding them and then ensuring that everything remained intact. So the empathy was always there, but never knew that finally it ends up in banking sector where I spent a couple of decades, 10 years with HDFC and ING and then yes. But the journey was, I believe that this is the time to give back to the society in a way that they need money, and I was the first one
fortunately under Aditya Puri to start agriculture rural banking in HDFC Bank way back in 2003. And traveled for 18 months across the country. Till that time, it was only I have seen my Punjab fields, but I think after looking at going to places like UP, Uttarakhand, Bihar, entire South, it was like an eye opener for me, and I realized that issues and the challenges across farming community are very similar. And I believe that first thing as a banker, if I have to do, build up a policy framework which really encourages private banks to templatize the product rather than just going via paper banking. So that was a time when we wrote about 28 products, translated the knowledge, information in ground to a product which can be sitting in a remote location of a branch. One can decide about how to lend to a farmer, and that was unheard of at that time. So we successfully launched these 28 products, starting from a dairy, poultry, piggery, sericulture, horticulture, whatnot, multiple crops, seasonal crops, vegetables, fruits. We studied it in detail, and 18 months it took us to launch those products. After that, it was a journey where lent about $4.5 billion of money across three banks, and always believed that there is a better way to lend money. And when you see the NPS were less than 1% across these organizations, Aditya was very clear on day one that, hey, whatever you want to do, I'll support you, but I need less than 1% NPL, and that was a hallmark with HDFC Bank. I think that was a great learning rather than spreading our wings across simple fundamentals like follow the water, which is very ancient way of thinking, but that's how the civilization has been built. Across the water. So if we start following rivers, we start following water, and then we start building clusters. And these are naturally clusters. Sitting here, I would never know that Kota cluster of oranges is at par with the orange cluster in Nagpur, which was eye opener for me. And I think a lot of people don't know that the oranges quality in Kota is as good as it is in Nagpur. But I think that was eye opener, and for good 20 years it was there. And when I was dealing with agri-tech companies, part of the agri-tech cohort in Yes Bank, that's where I dealt with about 300 agri-techs. That was an eye-opener. That's where I realized that lending money is just solving one part of the problem. But it also means that you are increasing the debt. But if the debt is used for the right purpose, then it makes sense. But there are many other things which farmers need. And that the real farmer in me and then the banker, we put up a strategy together and thought of that, let's start something with where we can provide them the right products related to seed, fertilizer. If they put in the right side of inputs, output is going to improve. So that's looking at 5-year Prime Minister's ask on doubling the farm income. We started our initiative called Farms, and very soon we realized that beyond providing them these platform where they can buy, it's important to create a supply chain. And last 3 years, we have built a amazing supply chain ecosystem, which is actually delivering at their doorstep. Currently, we cover about 150,000 villages where we have built the ability to deliver at their doorstep. Now it is all about scaling business, and fortunately, HDFC, Axis, and some of the large insurance companies are using our platform beyond just providing them products, but also the services at their doorstep. I think future is evolution, next level of evolution. I very strongly believe is going to come in rural India, where 700 million people still live their life, and they need a delivery system like Amazon, who can efficiently deliver at their home, but also ensure that they are delivered right set of products and services at their doorstep. So we are creating now a rural distribution, which any company or product company or a service company can leverage on. That's the vision we have now, to build a reach from 150,000 to at least 300,000 villages in the next 12 months' time. So we strongly believe that rural distribution or Bharat supply chain, if you call it, भारत में ही सब कुछ मिलेगा, और भारत सप्लाई चेन जो है वो एक ऐसा इकोसिस्टम, एक ऐसी कन्वेयर बेल्ट है जो भारत को इंडिया से जोड़ेगी. तो अब हम उस मिशन पे हैं, and I'm very excited that as a partner of that journey, really want to be making a difference in their lives.
Thanks, Tarun. Can you also give us a sense of the kind of jobs or entrepreneurs that you have created in the rural areas in the ag supply chain? And if you have to reach out to, say, 50 million farmers, what kind of job opportunities would be created in the rural hinterland?
Yeah, this is very interesting. I think during this journey, very important piece was people try to replicate a model which is global in nature. ये भारत का मॉडल होगा, इसमें वेस्टर्नाइजेशन नहीं होगी. इस मॉडल के अंदर भारत ही भारत को आगे लेके जाएगा. और एनीबडी हु थिंक के बॉम्बे से जाके हम कोई डिफरेंस क्रिएट करेंगे, हम लोग सिर्फ पॉलिसी लेवल पे कर सकते हैं, लेकिन एग्जीक्यूशन करने के लिए टैलेंट विच इज अवेलेबल, जो भारत के अंदर ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल है. वो जो किराना शॉप वाला है वो अपनी इनकम बढ़ाना चाहता है, वो वहां पे जो 10th पास जो लड़का है या लड़की है वो जॉब करना चाहते हैं, लेकिन वो गांव नहीं छोड़ सकते बिकॉज लेवल ऑफ इनकम एंड लेवल ऑफ स्पेंड दे हैव टू डू इन सिटीज इज मच हायर. तो हम लोगों ने वो लीवरेज किया. हर एक गांव के अंदर 2 या 3 छोटे कमर्शियल व्हीकल होते हैं. तो हमने क्या किया कि सारा भारत का जो एसेट क्रिएटेड था उसको हमने एग्रीगेट किया, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम छोटा दुकानदार जो खरीदना चाहता है और बेचना भी चाहता है, एक डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर जो रूरल तक रीच पहुंचाना चाहता है, हमने उसको सेलर बनाया, इस छोटे दुकानदार को पहुंचवाया. इस सारे इकोसिस्टम में जो हमने व्हीकल यूज किए वो हमने रूरल के ही यूज किए. कुछ 13,000 से ऊपर व्हीकल जो रूरल में रजिस्टर्ड हैं वो हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म पे अवेलेबल है, जिनको हम जॉब प्रोवाइड करते हैं. और पेंडेमिक टाइम पे सर आई कैन टेल यू द काइंड ऑफ चेंजेस वी ब्रॉट इन. घर पे जो फार्मर को सीड दिया, फर्टिलाइजर दिया, एग्रोकेमिकल दिया, और गांव वालों के छोटे ट्रक लोड, छोटे हाथी से लेके टाटा से महिंद्रो बोलेरो तक, 3 व्हीलर्स तक उनके घर पे पहुंचाया एसेंशियल कमोडिटीज को. दैट गिव्स अस अ सेंस. उसके बाद हमने 37,000 VLEs अपने साथ जोड़े जो एक्चुअली भारत से बिलोंग करते हैं और भारत में ही रहते हैं. तो हमने कहा कहीं आप शिफ्ट मत हो, आप यही रहो, इसी इकोसिस्टम को लीवरेज करो एंड वी विल बिकम योर पार्टनर्स ऑफ ग्रोथ. तो वो हमारा ट्रस्ट उन्होंने बिल्ड किया और हमने उनको जॉब्स और बिजनेस, क्योंकि सेल्फ सस्टेनेबल मॉडल जब तक भारत में नहीं आएगा इट विल बी लाइक अ बम्पी राइड वेयर आप जब तक पैसा पंप करोगे तब तक वो बिजनेस चलेगा, उसके बाद वो स्टैंड स्टिल हो जाएगा या डीग्रो कर जाएगा. लेकिन हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि ये 37,000 जो VLE है इन्हीं को 1 लाख VLEs तक लेके जाएं. VLE बहुत पावरफुल कॉन्सेप्ट है, लेकिन अगर हम rather than creating new one leverage the existing ones. दूसरा, हमने वहां पे छोटे दुकानदार को साथ जोड़ने के साथ साथ फार्मर के साथ ऐसे जुड़े उनके बच्चों के साथ. तो हमारा सबसे बड़ा क्लाइंट बेस है 18 से 35 साल के जो बच्चे हैं फार्मर्स के, बिकॉज वो टेक सेवी हैं, उन सबके फेसबुक अकाउंट हैं, वो सब सोशल मीडिया पे एक्टिव हैं. तो हमने सोशल मीडिया लिंकेज यूज किया जहां पे हमने कनेक्ट किया. तो आज वो अपने फादर या मदर के साथ डिस्कस करके या बड़े के साथ डिस्कस करके डिसीजन लेते हैं. तो भारत को ग्रो करने के लिए हम लोग बिलीव कर रहे हैं कि स्ट्रांगली भारत को ही खड़ा होना पड़ेगा और भारत में टैलेंट एसेट्स दोनों अवेलेबल हैं. इट्स जस्ट वी हैव टू एग्रीगेट इट अ हाइपर लोकल मॉडल, बट आई थिंक एंड देन obviously support from institution like Avishka and some of the global investors, some of the large families, they really supported farms initiative, and that's the reason we are now in a growing phase and believe that भारत को साथ लेके हम भारत खड़ा करेंगे और भारत को इंडिया के साथ जोड़ेंगे. और वो काफी हद तक अब हमें जो सक्सेस मिल रही है वो हमें ये है कि अब हम 21 स्टेट्स में हैं. तो विच इज अ क्लियर टेस्टिमनी कि जो हेट्रोजेनियस ग्रुप है 40-50 किलोमीटर पे चेंज होता है भारत, लेकिन अगर आप लोकल टैलेंट को साथ लेके चलेंगे तब आप एक ट्रू हाइपर लोकल मॉडल बनाएंगे जो स्केलेबल भी होगा, सस्टेनेबल भी होगा.
Thank you Taranveer, and with that we'll move to Kishore. I hope you're
can you hear me, sir?
yeah loud and clear. Kishore, thanks. So Kishore, आप tell us your journey. समस्तीपुर में आपने क्या किया है? And the fact that you picked on a product, the warehouse receipt financing, infrastructure, building up of warehouses, that historically has been one of the most abused products in the Indian market. The kind of scams that we have had, I think one good part was probably you were not even aware of that, but do let us know your story of what kind of transition you were championing in Bihar and elsewhere now.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me here. And I'm sorry there was a glitch in my laptop. So I born and brought up in village. And गांव में जब बड़े हो रहे थे तो हम लोग जब खेती धान गेहूं की कटाई होती थी तो सब कुछ वहाँ पे धान गेहूं के टर्म में ही बिकते थे. मतलब आप किराना सामान लेने जा रहे हो तो आप 5 kg गेहूं लेके जाओ और वापस आप दाल चावल खरीद के लेके आओ. So we have seen that kind of barter system in the villages since childhood, and also we saw the struggle since childhood that how my father he was cultivating land and all बीज के लिए खाद के लिए पैसे के लिए सब कुछ के लिए जो struggle होती थी वहाँ पे. And then eventually जब grain जब बन के तैयार होती थी तो वो बेचने के लिए इतनी क्राइसिस होती थी कि किसे बेचे, कहाँ बेचेंगे, कैसे बेचें, ये चीजें जहन में थी बचपन से. Then when I worked with the banking sector for 8-9 years in retail banking, वो बचपन की दिमाग में याद थी कि यार यहाँ पे आरबीआई की छपी हुई करेंसी मैनेज कर रहे हैं, वहाँ गांव में किसानों का करेंसी है, तो डिफरेंस क्या. फिर वापस गांव गया और घर के पीछे जाके देखा तो पूरा सैकड़ों एकड़ में गेहूं लगे हुए थे. तो मुझे वहाँ लिटरली वहाँ करेंसी नोट लटके हुए दिखे खेत में. यार ये तो अनाज का बैंक है, ये तो फैला हुआ है चारों तरफ, इसको कैसे लेके आए सिस्टम में. और ये बात है 2011-12 की, तब तक टेक्नोलॉजी जो है बहुत उस लेवल पे आ नहीं रही थी. हमने इंडस्ट्रीज को मतलब रिसर्च किया कि लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, कैसे कर रहे हैं, तो देखा कि सबको एक डिमांड सप्लाई जो उसमें डिमांड साइड में लोगों को सर्विस कर रहे हैं, एक्सचेंज है, बैंक्स हैं वगैरह वगैरह. लेकिन इस देश में जो किसान है जिनकी औसतन जो उपज की क्षमता होती है 30-40 क्विंटल होती है, जिसकी वैल्यू 1 लाख सवा लाख रुपए की अनाज होती है, वो क्यों नहीं लोग आके टच करते हैं. सब कोई जो है अपस्ट्रीम और मिड स्ट्रीम में लगे हैं, डाउन स्ट्रीम में कोई नहीं. तो वहां पे देखा बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज ये था, किसान डिस्ट्रेस में होता है, इमीडिएटली अनाज को बेचना होता है और वो छोटे छोटे क्वांटिटी होती है, वहां पे क्वालिटी होती है, सेलिंग होती है, पैसे की जरूरत होती है. तो ये तीन तरह की चीजें हम देखा कि इफ आई कैन बिल्ड अ कैपेबिलिटी एट द फार्म गेट where the farmer can bring the grain and keep it at one place, and then we connect it through technology to the lenders and to the buyer, the food processors, then all three can do the transaction smoothly. So then we came up with a model called grain bank. तो क्यों ना हम अनाज का बैंक बनाएं जिसमें करेंसी रुपया नहीं जमा होगा, अनाज जमा होगा. पर अनाज जब जमा होता है तो वहां बहुत सारे चैलेंजेस आ रहे थे. फंजिबिलिटी, वहां पे डिमार्केशन, बैंक्स ने बोला हम लोन नहीं देंगे आपको 10,000 20,000 का, हमको 50 लाख 1 करोड़ का लोन देते हैं, ये छोटे छोटे टिकट हमसे नहीं होगा. देन वी स्टार्टेड एक्सप्लोरिंग द टेक्नोलॉजी में हम लोग क्या ग्रेन को डिजिटाइज करके उन्हें बैंक्स को जहां बैठे हैं, बंबई में, दिल्ली में बैठे हैं, क्या वहीं पे उन्हें जब स्क्रीन पर दिखाएं, देखो सर ये मेरे पास 5 किसान है, इनका 50 लाख का अनाज है और इनको लोन चाहिए. तो जैसे आपने वेयरहाउस रिसीट फाइनेंसिंग का नाम लिया, फटाक से उन्होंने वेयरहाउस रिसीट दे दिया मुझे. मैं बोला सर ये प्रोडक्ट तो नहीं चलेगा. 7 साल लगे मुझे बैंक को कन्विंस करने में कि सर वेयरहाउस रिसीट फाइनेंसिंग से देश की भलाई नहीं होगी, किसानों की भलाई नहीं होगी. किसान के पास, किसी के पास 30 क्विंटल है, 40 क्विंटल है, 50 क्विंटल है, किसान लोन चाहिए उन्हें और तुरंत चाहिए. मतलब स्पीड इज द मोस्ट क्रिटिकल थिंग्स. कि कटाई हुई और तुरंत अगला दिन यदि उनके खाते में आपने पैसे नहीं दिया, आप नहीं कर पाएंगे कुछ. वो बेचेंगे, हथिया को बेचेंगे, हथिया ले जाएगा, किधर भी बेचेगा, पैसे कभी भी देगा वगैरह वगैरह. सो हमने प्रोडक्ट बनाए, हमने सॉल्यूशन बनाया, हमने जिम्मेदारी ली बैंक की सर हम सारे अनाज की जिम्मेदारी लेते हैं. गांव में जो वेयरहाउसेस हैं जो हमने लीज पे लिया और उसमें डिजिटाइज किया हुआ अनाज है और कोई भी लॉट साइज नहीं होगा जैसे हम लॉट साइज समझते हैं एनसीडीएक्स और एक्सचेंज पे, क्योंकि जितने किसान उतने लॉट. किसी के खेत में 40 क्विंटल, 50 क्विंटल, 10 क्विंटल. तो हमने ये भी देखा कि यार ये किसानों को लोन लेने की आदत तो है नहीं, इनके खाते में कभी पैसे आते नहीं है. तो जैसे अपना मान लीजिए कि बैंक में पैसे ही नहीं है तो वो बैंक क्यों जाएंगे, बैंक जाने की वजह ही नहीं थी. तो मैंने उसको बैंकर के पर्सपेक्टिव से देखा कि यार ट्रूली फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन जो है वो बैंकिंग बिहेवियर है. किसानों में बैंकिंग बिहेवियर क्यों नहीं है, क्योंकि जो अनाज की बिकवाली है वो पैसे आते हैं कैश में और कैश में आते हैं, कैश में खर्चा हो जाते हैं, तो कभी उनको बैंक जाने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. फिर वो यूपीआई कैसे करेंगे. तो आपको कहीं ना कहीं फार्मर को इस तरह से मोटिवेट करना है कि उन्हें बैंक क्यों आना है. तो जब वो बैंक आएंगे तब जब उनके पैसे वहां पे हों. तो हमने जो इकोसिस्टम बिल्ड किया जिसमें उनके अनाज को डिजिटाइज करके उनके लिए मोबाइल ऐप बना दिया जो हिंदी में एक्सेस कर सकते हैं. बट हाँ, ऐप किसान खुद नहीं चला सकते हैं, तो हमने असिस्टेड मॉडल बिल्ड किया. जैसे बैंक में रिलेशनशिप मैनेजर होता है, तो एक वेयरहाउस के चारों तरफ 200-150 किसान होते हैं जिसपे एक रिलेशनशिप मैनेजर होती है, उन्हें असिस्ट करते हैं और असिस्ट करने में उन्हें ट्रांजेक्शन करने में मदद करते हैं. तो लोन उनके लिए इतना क्रिटिकल था कि यदि हमने उन्हें 24 घंटे में लोन डिस्बर्स नहीं किया 70% ऑफ द ग्रेन वैल्यू, तो नहीं रख पाएंगे अनाज को. और ऐसे जब उन्होंने लोन मिल गया तो उन्हें आश्वासन मिल गया हाँ मेरा पैसा मिल गया वापस, and then after 6-7 months he can sell comfortably and get the money into his bank account. तो ट्रू सेंस में आप देखेंगे यहाँ पे तो जो फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन है, जो उनकी बोरोइंग बिहेवियर है, जो रीपेमेंट इंटेंशन है कि भाई यहाँ पे अनाज बेच के पैसे सेटल हो जाते हैं उन्हें, तो एक्चुअली में यदि आप रूरल में कोई भी चीज इंटरवेंशन करना चाहते हैं तो व्हाट आई रियलाइज की द फाइनेंशियल इंटरवेंशन इज क्रिटिकल, दैट टू विद द हाई डिसिप्लिन ऑफ द रीपेमेंट ऑन टाइम, दैट टू विद द क्लैरिटी ऑन कि मुझे कब मिलेगा पैसे, कितने मिलेगा पैसे, राइट? ये सब सारी चीजें हमने टेक्नोलॉजी से फिक्स की बट विद असिस्टेड मॉडल। तो 2012 से जर्नी शुरू हुई एंड किसानों को जब एक गांव, दो गांव, तीन गांव, आप एक गांव आप देखेंगे तो एक गांव में 2 से 3 करोड़ का अनाज होता है। अब ये बाहर से देखने में लोगों को समझ में नहीं, एक गांव में 3-3 करोड़, 4-4 करोड़ का अनाज, समस्तीपुर अकेला 500 करोड़ का सिर्फ अनाज उत्पादन कर। तो हम लोगों ने अपने फोकस को एकदम स्पेसिफिक रखा कि मुझे अनाज ही मैनेज करना है और अनाज का ग्रेन बैंक बनाना है और उसमें सेल्फ लाइफ होती है, वहां से फाइनेंशियल डिसिप्लिन शुरू होती है एंड देन जब आप 1 सीजन, 2 सीजन, 3 सीजन काम करते हैं देन यू बिकम अ कंप्लीट लॉयल पार्टनर ऑफ द फार्मर एंड देन जब आपके पास पैसे होते हैं तो आपको बताने की जरूरत नहीं होती आपको कहां खर्च करने हैं, राइट? तो हमने क्या किया, हमको आमदनी 30 से 40% बढ़ा दी, उनकी मनी लेंडर से ट्रैक हटा दिया, अब वो सीधा बैंक से बोरो करते हैं, राइट? अब उन्होंने अनाज 6-8 महीने बेच के 30-40% भाव में भी ज्यादा इजाफा हो गया, तो उनकी आमदनी आप लिटरली देखेंगे तो 1 साल के अंदर ही ऑलमोस्ट डबल हो जाती है, राइट? तो ये डबलिंग फार्मर इनकम, ये फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन, ये डिजिटल इंटरवेंशन एंड ये डिजिटल पेमेंट्स, इस सब चीज को इकट्ठा करके ग्रेन बैंक ने वन स्टॉप सॉल्यूशन लाके खड़ा कर दिया एंड आई बिलीव यदि रूरल में कोई भी इंटरवेंशन होनी है तो सबसे पहले हमें देखनी है कि क्या एसेट है वहां पे जिसको मोनेटाइज कर सकते हैं, सिक्योर वे में कैसे बिजनेस कर सकते हैं ताकि कोई डेलिक्वेंसी ना हो, किसानों को लोन चुकाने की आदत पड़ जाए ताकि उन्हें जो भी पैसे वो बोरो करें 6 से 8 महीने में वो उनके वर्क कैश फ्लो से लिंक्ड हो कि भाई आपकी अनाज वहां रखी है, आप नहीं दोगे तो अनाज बिक जाएंगी और यदि आप देरी करोगे तो दूसरा क्रॉप आएगा तब तक अनाज का दाम फिर से घट जाएगा। तो ये इतना खूबसूरत अरेंजमेंट है हो गई जिसमें किसान खुद जो है लोन लेते हैं, क्रॉप अगला क्रॉप तैयार करते हैं और फिर से वो लोन क्लोज करके एंड वापस ही होते हैं। तो ये एक स्पीड और टेक्नोलॉजी और एक ट्रस्ट की बिजनेस है जिसमें हमने एक ग्रेन बैंक को एक लास्ट माइल तक लेके गए और हम लोग ऐसा मानते हैं कि यदि भारत को सच में नेक्स्ट लेवल पे लेके जाना तो इंडिविजुअल पार्टिसिपेशन इज अ मस्ट, individual the repayment track record, individual financial track record, individual behavior of adopting the banking facility is a must, and that's where we believe that the Bharat will emerge as the next level of economy where the great contribution will come from the rural India.
Thank you Kishore. I think in the morning we also heard about the 5 C's, the 5 different kind of capital: human capital, social capital, technology, financial capital, and environment capital. I think you have ticked most of the boxes there. You've just proven the point that you require to impact or you require contribution from all kind of capitals to make things happen in rural India. Thank you so much for that. Vijay, are you there? I'm not sure whether we have lost him, but Vinny. Now again, going back to your journey. Now you started with IntelliCap, then you set up Avishkar, and now you are one of the leading venture capital fund, especially in the impact. You were also the pioneer. Now, can you tell me that what actually happened in rural India that led to a tipping point so far as your business is concerned? Because if I do remember correctly, it happened in the pre-technology era. What were the critical factors which led to a tipping point and getting so many LPs invested in your business?
So, आविष्कार पहले 2001 में आविष्कार, अक्टूबर 2001, 2002 मार्च में Next came later. So, again, I was a scatterbrain. You don't have money, you start two businesses. The most stupid thing you can do. But stupidity is a hallmark of us. I think when I started, there were 2-3 things. One, startup India नहीं था, कोई entrepreneur बनना नहीं चाहता था. Rural India में entrepreneurship was considered quite stupid. But the first thing I discovered was microfinance was already becoming a business. Even though I had zero interest in microfinance, I was not interested actually. In 2001 and 4, I was actually not doing anything in microfinance other than Vijay Mahajan actually asking me to join the board of Cashflow. So I had no understanding of microfinance, but I was getting educated about microfinance. मैं कोशिश कर रहा था कि जो गांव में इनोवेशन होते हैं उनको स्केल कर सकते हैं और I invested into 6 different companies और 6 की 6 कंपनी बैंकरप्ट हो रही थी 2005 में. So I was actually an expert in bankrupting all the money I was raising. मैंने करीब 5 करोड़ रुपए रेज किया था 5,000 से 5 करोड़ बन रहा था 2005 में और करीब 6 बैंकरप्ट कंपनियों के अंदर I had stakes. बट उस पीरियड में between 2001 and 5, 2004 while इंटेलीकैप को मैंने शुरू 2002 में किया था 2004 के अंदर 1 मार्च 2004 I was completely bankrupt. विजय महाजन मेरे घर पे रुके हुए थे स्वाति told विजय महाजन कि ये आदमी अगले महीने घर का किराया देने को नहीं है. So विजय महाजन said कि तुम्हारा ना you're suffering from martyr syndrome. तुम्हारी एक फोटो लगेगी उसमें माला लगेगी और that's what you will be. So the first principle of being a social entrepreneur is you take care of your family and yourself. And he said, okay, तुमको मैं 20,000 रुपए का contract देता हूँ. So basic signed a contract, made me his financial advisor. By the way, I'm a forester. So anyway, he said, FN a forester, finance is a you become an advisor and he made a very prophetic statement. So there was no great microfinance at that point of time. He said, देखो तुम equity करते हो और तुमको थोड़ा बहुत microfinance मालूम है तो within microfinance you are probably a equity guy who understands microfinance the best. And within so amongst all the equity guys you understand microfinance the best. And within all the microfinance guys including me you understand equity the best. Because if you remember 2003, 4, 5 everybody was a not-for-profit. So nobody knew. He said to me, IntelliGap को use करके हम सबको सिखाओ equity क्या होती है. So we started a class in IntelliGap which every CEO in microfinance actually has gone through. तो हम सिखाते थे कि भाई equity क्या होती है, leverage क्या होता है. एक very famous, very large CEO of a microfinance company, she said to me कि ये share पे लिखा हुआ है 10 रुपए है. आप बोल रहे हो उसका value 30 रुपए होता है. ये कैसे हो सकता है? उसमें तो लिखा हुआ है 10 रुपए है. So this was the level of somebody who became a billionaire by the way. So and that's how actually so I started seeing microfinance becoming successful because of 2 reasons. One, bankers were willing to move in. I mean, microfinance wouldn't have been successful had Nachiket more not opened hundreds of crores for leverage because microfinance existed for 20 years before I entered. But the leverage allowed it to actually scale. The other thing that was very clear and evident was the supply of talented people from the banking sector. So generally people think that talented people move to the banks. Microfinance में गंगा उल्टी बह रही थी. Talent जो है सब तरह रहा था. Govind Singh and Bhaskar Babu and others and Vasu. All the people I invested in actually came from bank to this side. So what was clearly evident to me is कि उल्टा हो सकता है. गंगा उल्टी भी बह सकती है. And the combination of talent and money then spurred the change. So, and the funny part was the moment we started demonstrating that microfinance can scale this way, and this is something that I actually learned, that there is something called mainstream capital. So there were people like me and then there were people outside, JP Morgan and others, जहाँ पे पैसे, तो मेरे लिए $1 million was a 5-year journey. These people were having hundreds and billions of dollars, and they could actually participate in the journey very quickly. So the second thing I learned was that you cannot operate in isolation if you are trying to make impact, and you should educate the mainstream guys about money and opportunity. Microfinance actually suddenly opened the eyes of the world towards the opportunity of rural India, and it was not very difficult after that to showcase agri-tech's opportunity and other things. Right? So things that actually appear like as if the whole world is interested in agri-tech, you'll be surprised. 2013, 14, when we made an investment in AgroStar, the term agri-tech was actually unknown. So it's as late as 7-8 years back. Most of the mainstream funds started coming post 2016. So you have to convince mainstream capital to follow you. Otherwise, you would actually be trying to grow. Sahara Desert के अंदर आप जाके seed डाल के एक मग पानी डाल दीजिए and expect a tree to come out of it. That won't happen. So you have to continuously, any sapling that comes out in a desert needs to be watered all through. And in rural India, you have to see, especially from an economic and operational point of view, as an area which will be parched of capital. And so unless you convince mainstream capital to follow you and you demonstrate to them, again remember that there is a lot of myth that people from mainstream world actually seek high returns. That's actually not true. Mainstream world over 8% return है venture capital का. So any idiot thinks microfinance में ज़्यादा return करते हैं. No great venture capitalist has delivered any great returns. You can pick up any number. हमारे भी number देख लीजिए. None of us have ever delivered great returns. We deliver great thought process about returns. So हम लोग virtual world में लोगों को खुश रखते हैं, and that's why Silicon Valley is always happy with venture capitalists. The reality is we don't deliver returns, and I figured that out very quickly. That you have to tell great stories and great vision. Capital will keep coming. There is a hierarchy in terms of talent. So in that hierarchy of talent, entrepreneur sits at the top. People like us, we are mediocre, we sit in the center, we are called GPs, general partners. And then there are supplier of capital to me, they are called limited partners. They actually sit at the bottom in the hierarchy of intellectual capability. Then there is a hierarchy of resource. The LP sits at the top, I again sit at the center, GP, mediocre, and then the entrepreneur sits at the bottom. So if you understand these two hierarchies, raising capital then becomes very easy. Because you are selling a very bright guy to a very dumb person. And that till the time you keep doing this, you will keep winning, whether you deliver return or not. Secret sauce.
Thank you, Vinit. You made a great point about human capital and financial capital coming together. Because if you look at rural tech, agri tech, climate tech today, what's happening is these two capital are getting together. There's no hope in hell with them.
See, you have Vijay Shikhar Sharma, and that actually he'll tell you how easy it is to tell people with large amount of money, because no investor can actually compete with his genius in terms of understanding both the human side and the financial side. And ultimately, you have to tell the right story. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs actually spend too much time in not telling the right story. This is just a general thing. It's very important to be a storyteller for you to raise money.
Thank you. Thanks, Vijay. Now, Vijay, now tell us about, one anecdote about unintended consequence of the business you do. Something positive which has come or something you didn't even think of. You can tell us one of that. And second, Vinit made a point about collaboration, about partnership, which is SDG 17. Now, we use the word transform, which is a very strong word, but also to transition from one point to another point, we need partnership, very strong partnership and collaboration. What do you think would be the role of the development sector, the public sector, and the private sector to be able to build up partnerships to make a difference in mobility?
Thank you. And Vinit is actually really sharp. The one who can say that they are not sharp means that they are very profoundly sharp. So he's obviously
we all know that.
And ability to sell a sharp kid to a dumb money is one of the toughest skill. I think one of the total byproduct, and I think all of us get energies from people who are very smart or very accomplished or are very, something with someone whom we look up to. I underestimated the interest that many global riches or achieved or accomplished people will have to solve for what they're solving for in India. I mean, I thought that I would be technically not commercially successful. I would not be commercially viable. I would be more doing it as contribution. So I always did a model which is a grant-led but survival-led, survival-led, those kind of models. And the byproduct of what I ended up doing is that I now can say, this is something I'm just benchmarking as a single benchmark. Happened to me, I was in Davos and I was in a dinner invite. And I normally carry my badge reverse so that people don't identify me. And if they know me, then they will know me. If they don't know me, then it's okay not to know me. So I was reverse badged, and Bill Gates saw me and he said, "Hey, how's your bank doing?" And I was like, "You come to me?" And he saw who behind me not standing. And I was like, "Okay." So he said, "Yeah, you launching a bank, right? On Aadhaar and everything else, digital India stack and whatnot." So the byproduct had been that I now can probably have access or have a conversation with so smart and look people whom you always dreamt of, even ever having in the same room attendance. You know what I'm trying to say? That, oh, I was in the room where this gentleman or this person was there, kind of thing. So I feel privileged on that, and this is my successful byproduct. Because as an entrepreneur, I wanted to talk to people who are very, very able and accomplished, and I think the problem solving gives me the ticket. Actually, I want to tell you this. When you solve for scale, you get access to this. Actually, so I wanted to acknowledge this is all towards because of the work that we have taken upon ourselves, and we underestimate that the world at large definitely want to support people who are solving these kind of things. Like what I heard Kishore talk about, what I heard Tarunbir talk about. These are the things that surprisingly we underestimate how much of interest that exists. How much of interest that exists to solve for this. It's amazing. And when it comes to partnerships, it's no secret about it that no single work has been done by a single person or single team. A partnership and obligation. और partnership मेरी नज़र में इस तरह से होती है कि जो I mean different skills होते हैं. For example, like a technology and art is a very two different skills, and then they partner together, and then they come out with a solution which is a very different usability product. Or financial services, let's say, so financial services or technology, or and so on and so forth. So when you partner with a very different cohort or very different skill, then the magic happens. So in my opinion, more of the same is a coming together, and more of the mutually non-exclusive, the things which are mutually exclusive, when they come together, they are partnership. So I'm for championing the partnerships, like you said, in, let's say, government who wants to solve it, and the people in private sector who want to do it, in development sector, people who are championing it. And I have seen it, that everyone has a awe of somebody else in the other side because of what they have done, and it seems like, oh my goodness, this will be creating a social combination. And the best part here is that purpose becomes one, so partnership works. So partnership is the way forward, and more diverse partnerships, better they are.
Thank you. Thank you. Kishore, in your journey, from an idea to implementation to scale up, to getting people like Avishkar to invest in your business, now, who were the 3-4 key players who encouraged you, who believed in you, who trusted you to embark on the journey? Again, talking of partnership, who are the players who got together to really make your dream come true?
Yeah. So for me, the first thing, as I think Vijayji also said, that your own people, like when you have even your partner, like a co-founder, when you say कि boss, मुझे तो brain bank बनाना है, so first thing is that you convince him and you convince other people around you because ये possible है, right? ये possible है कि this is possible that you convert grain as a digital asset, and the loan can be really disbursed in a fraction of minutes. जहाँ पे लोन लेने के लिए चप्पल घिस जाते हैं गांव में किसानों को, literally चप्पल घिस जाते हैं. And when I went there and told them because मैंने लोन दिला देना आपको 10 मिनट में, आप अनाज ला के यहाँ रखो. The most toughest thing was that the farmer cannot digest this because they believe in lots of other things, lots of other hardships. They have experience, कभी पैसे लेके भागे, कभी लोन नहीं दिए, कभी कहीं से कट देना पड़ा and all that stuff. So the toughest thing is that you convince your own people because this is possible. This is possible, we can do this, right? Because in rural ecosystem, it's not formally organized, right? कि आप यदि warehouse hire कर रहे हैं तो landlord बोलता है अरे agreement क्या होता है? आप मेरा घर use करो, अनाज रखो. No sir, there has to be a formal agreement. Agreement लेके गया, stamp paper लेके गया, बोलता है ये तो मेरा घर लिखाने आ गया. Stamp paper पे मैं क्यों लिख के दूंगा? You use my premises. So the first thing when you start building an ecosystem, the first challenge that you convince the stakeholder that there is a formal way to do business, right? So that's where the first challenge what I heard about. The second, I think Vinit already said that in 2014 when I go back to the investor fraternity and I pitch them कि hey look, I have done this 3 warehouse, मैंने 300 किसानों को ले आया, मैं 5-7 करोड़ का धंधा कर लिया, यहाँ पे ये इतना फाइनेंस फिनटेक का स्कोप है, यहाँ ग्रेन मैनेजमेंट का स्कोप है और इसको हम लोग बड़ा कर सकते हैं एंड किसान की इसमें भलाई हो रही है and all that stuff. So it was a very difficult time that no one knew about the agri-tech. Technology actually हमारे पास थी नहीं, पैसे आते तो टेक्नोलॉजी डालते. मैं तब तक एक्सेल में कर रहा था सब कुछ, जैसे मैं बैंक में पोर्टफोलियो मैनेज करता था वैसे किसान का पोर्टफोलियो बनाता था. तो टिपिकली मेरे लिए हर एक फार्मर एक HNI कस्टमर होता है कि उसकी 20 साल की ह्यूमन लाइफ वैल्यू देखते हैं कि कितने का रिलेशनशिप है, इनको इतना मुझे ट्रांजैक्शन कराना है प्लेटफॉर्म। सो द सेकंड चैलेंज वाज दैट टू कन्विंस द इन्वेस्टर फ्रेटर्निटी कि यस दिस बिजनेस इज स्केलेबल, बिकॉज़ हमें एक ही क्वेश्चन पूछी गई थी कि तूने 2 जगह खोले हैं, क्या तुम इसको 200 जगह कर सकते हो क्या? सो देन you have to come up with a process, system and control and all that stuff, because you are managing assets of the farmer, you are managing assets of the bank, right? And then you manage it efficiently to generate return to the farmer and the company, to the stakeholder, all that. So the second level challenge was definitely to attract capital to scale this business. Since it was validated at a very small scale, we could we could achieve that. So these were the second things. The third, when we started scaling and going across the geography, जैसे बिहार से कर्नाटक आया मैं, तो एक ही देश में 2 देश लगा मुझे कि बिहार में हम बोलते हैं कि वहां पे गरीबी है, पैसे कम है, बिलीव नहीं करेंगे, हमने 100 करोड़ का अनाज जब भी किसान ला के रखा तो उसमें से सिर्फ 30 करोड़ का लोन लिया किसानों ने, और 100 करोड़ अनाज जब भी कर्नाटक में ला के रखा तो उसमें से 70 करोड़ लोन लिया लोगों ने। See the adoption of finance, ये मैजिकल लगता है, ऐसा कैसे, क्यों नहीं लिया लोगों ने? मैंने डीप डाइव किया इसमें कि क्या हो रहा है, किसान क्यों नहीं लोन लेना चाहते हैं, ऑल दैट। सो देयर इज अ डिफरेंट रीजन। सो देन व्हाट आई अंडरस्टैंड हियर कि जब भी आप स्केल करते हैं, दूसरे ज्योग्राफी में जाते हैं, लोगों की माइंडसेट, बिहेवियर, अडैप्टेबिलिटी सब कुछ डिफरेंट होता है। टेक एडॉप्शन है, मोबाइल ऐप पे सारी ट्रांजैक्शन होते हैं, एक क्लिक में लोन मिल जाता है, ऑल दैट, बायोमेट्रिक से साइन होते हैं डॉक्यूमेंट्स। इट वाज लाइक अ ड्रीम कम ट्रू। उनको लगता है कि ऐसे कैसे होगा, यहाँ OTP डालेंगे, आधार कार्ड से साइन हो जाएगा और शाम तक खाते में लोन डिस्बर्स, पॉसिबल ही नहीं। तो बिहार में ये भी एक चैलेंज थी कि इतना अच्छा कैसे हो सकता है, पर कर्नाटक में लोगों को लगा नहीं ये होता है ये, एंड दैट्स व्हाई मतलब पहले ही साल में हमें मतलब ये सब चीजें अडॉप्शन देखने लगी। तो जब आप स्केल करते हैं तो बड़ा चैलेंज होता है कि नए ज्योग्राफी में टोटली नई चीजें हों, वहां पे हम कैसे अपने यूनिट कॉस्ट को कंट्रोल में रखते हुए स्केल करें, एसेट को प्रिजर्व करें, कस्टमर एक्सपीरियंस बढ़ाएं, एंड देन यू build your scalability over there consistently and profitably, in your mind कि बस मुझे ये पकड़ के रखना है। So these 3 things we experience and we have learned and we are implementing it while scaling the process.
Thank you. I think the point that Taranveer also made earlier about localization, India is a continent and you need to localize every 150 kilometers on the cultural aspect, on how the people adopt different kind of services, technology and products. So Taranveer, a quick 30 seconds response to collaboration and partnership and how important it is for agriculture and climate.
I think, sir, absolutely. This is the key. Anybody who want to create infrastructure, it's not a sustainable model. Two, it's because it's so heterogeneous in nature, it's not scalable and you can't replicate a model. So you need to ensure that the local asset, both human talent and the physical asset, has to be utilized properly, and there is so much unutilized assets available in the rural hinterland that it is just a matter of collaborating. And this is where we strongly believe technology is going to play a major role. Agri-tech is a physical model, it cannot be digital. So it has to be backed by technology, but the front end, asset and human capital has to be from Bharat.
Thank you, Taranveer. And the last word, Vineet. Now, you have a portfolio of companies, right? And they are doing different kind of businesses in rural, urban areas. And now, again, talking of collaboration to make your SDGs come true. I mean, $2 trillion, it can still be a pipe dream. But to get that, what kind of partnership and collaboration and how easy or difficult it is to get different sectoral players to come together for a single objective?
Again, going back to IFM, we learned the word ecosystem. I think you have to start seeing a real life ecosystem come into play when you're working in startup ecosystem as well. And the ecosystem actually has many parts, like you have trees, shrubs, herbs, mammals, birds. Similarly, in this you have capital, talent, so you have main things. Right? But you also have very small things, so niche, partnerships, For example, as I said, basic partnership, if you can't attract mainstream capital, then you will not be able to create value, long-term value. You will have to actually work with the government, whether you like it or not. You have to understand government's ability and its fear. Remember that the poor is seen by the government. We have suffered in microfinance. I have seen that similar things happen in other areas as well. Poor is seen by government as their constituency. So when you as a private sector initiative start trying to work with the poor in extractive form, where you are taking things away from the poor, it can create very challenging situation. So how do you convince them or showcase to them that this is you are trying to create value? But more importantly, what I have learned is if you actually put money into the hand of the farmer slash the marginalized person, that convinces the government better than the other way around, where you are actually trying to miniaturize the product and sell it to the farmer or the marginalized person and take money for yourself. So in 2023, my learning is the bottom of the pyramid that C.K. Prahlad talked about actually creates very serious trouble with the government. And the way to engage and partner and create credibility for the entrepreneurs, for the space, for the thought process of capitalism in an essentially socialistic society requires all kinds of collaboration. And the challenges are inherent because of the conflicts. ये देश अभी भी विश्वास करता है जो पैसा कमाता है वो चोर है, ये बहुत जनरली. सो इंडिविजुअली हम लोग बिलीव करते हैं कि मेरे को पैसा कमाना चाहिए, कलेक्टिवली जो पैसा कमाता है वो चोर है. दिस इज एक्चुअली हाउ वी थिंक. सो इंडिविजुअल एकदम अलग है और सोसाइटी जो है थिंकिंग एकदम अलग है. And that contradiction is still not actually, in my view, it still exists as far apart as it has been probably in 2000 as well. So I think there is a more acceptance of individual richness, but as a collective, we don't see other rich people as pushers or great. Well, that's personal view.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why, collaboration across sectors, the development sector, the academia, the public sector, and the private sector, we are still at a very nascent stage. Because unless we can get an act together, like Europe did about 60, 70 years back after World War II, when all of them worked collectively to make things happen, we need the ability to do that. And Vijay, question for you. Now, Vijay, let's talk about rural India, transactions in rural India. Can you give us a sense with the kind of products and services that you have pioneered and introduced and which has got mainstream now, what kind of saving and incomes are we seeing in rural India which otherwise would not have been possible? There were many skeptics when you came into the market with your disruptions. They said, oh, it's very difficult, why should we trust in this business? And now it's simply exploded. But the kind of savings to the national economy, to an individual household of carrying cash, of doing these transactions, to build in trust in the system, what kind of impact do you think it has had in rural India?
I think the best surprise that we got is that per shopkeeper, how much money can rotate. As you understand, the business of finances or requirement of capital can be served from two sides. One is that you have an asset, another is you have a cash flow. But cash flow knowledge and information was totally not there in the system because it was all cash and paper led. So there was no record of that. And now with the amount of payments that we're seeing, the best surprise I can tell you is that large banks, Mr. Singh comes from HDFC's background, so he understands that banks have a particular threshold to onboard a customer, so that they can probably make a logical sense of making some money or not. And these people in mostly rural areas were, the banking was secondary or unaffordable or not up to the full service that we could have given. But by having a QR code and payments using Paytm and UPI today, I'm happy to tell you that our average bank account incoming money in a month is 60,000-70,000 rupees, which actually is double of the nation's average saving account deposit. So in this country, we have 35 or 40,000 per saving account money, and now this person is rotating 80,000 per month as money. Now that is what I'm pleasantly surprised and just proves our philosophy and thesis. Now the best part is that a derivative of this cash flow, because it is tough for people to get loan based on assets because they don't have any or many that are mortgageable, and a grain bank is such a phenomenal idea. But think about it, now that the money is coming to the shop every day, I could take 100 रुपया 200 रुपया. You remember the chit scheme that used to be, दिन का जाता था, तो हम 100 रुपया 500 रुपया दिन का ले सकते हैं उस दुकान से, डिपेंडिंग ऑन कि कितनी बड़ी और छोटी दुकान है, और उसका फ्यूचर फॉरवर्ड अंडरराइट कर सकते हैं. सो 50,000 1 लाख रुपए के लोन जो पहले एक्सोबरेंट, मतलब परसेंटेज तो इलॉजिकल है मैथ्स में, क्योंकि वो छोटे टेन्योर के लिए होते थे, तो उसमें 100 रुपए लग जाते हैं, 1000 रुपए पे परसेंटेज तो हंड्रेड्स में चले जाते हैं उनके. तो जहाँ पे कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल और एक्सेस टू द लोन वाज सो एक्सोबरेंट, थैंक्स टू दिस डिजिटल पेमेंट, थैंक्स टू द अकाउंट, द फॉर्मल अकाउंट, दैट फुल बैंकिंग सर्विस इज इवन द डबल वैल्यू अकाउंट. 40,000 रुपए की जगह 70-80,000 रुपए का एवरेज पेमेंट आ रहा है. Now this shopkeeper is able to rotate money and have access to the capital which otherwise was not accessible. So I'm so happy to tell you that it is truly not a payment revolution but a access to capital revolution out there that is happening.
Thank you, Vijay. And just to make your point further, elaborate on your point, India unfortunately thought that financial inclusion starts with credit. But if you look at some of the richest, most successful banking systems globally, it started with payments and transaction services, right? So, I mean, you have done that. You have done that. It was not led by the government, but you have proven that it's transaction and payment services which leads to financial inclusion and overall inclusion. Thank you so much. And with that, well, I would like to end the session. It's difficult to sum up. A lot has been said, but I think we can draw from the first session to say the 5 capital that we talked of, whether with intent you build up a business or you build up a business, but once you grow, you need all the 5. And rural India plays a very, very important role in scaling up of businesses, in providing talent to your businesses, and in providing opportunities for your businesses to grow. Thank you so much.